Is the clerk ready? Board, are we ready to go? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the meeting and public hearing, land use meeting and public hearing on March 10th, 2026 at 2:31 in the afternoon for the Board of Douglas County Board of Douglas County Commissioners. Let us come to order. If everyone will please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda.
Yes, sir. The county attorney's office has reviewed all items on the agenda. You have appropriate jurisdiction over these matters, and where appropriate posting has been made.
Thank you, Counselor. Commissioners, do you have any disclosures for any items on this agenda?
I have none.
No.
Nor do I. Let's go right into our land use meeting today. Our first item is Sterling Ranch, filing number 7C, final plat. Project file is SB 2024-060. Brett Thomas, Chief Planner, Community Development.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Thomas representing Community Development. The application is a final plat for Sterling Ranch, filing 7C, project number SB 2024-060. The applicant representative is present on behalf of Sterling Ranch. The board previously approved the final plat for filing 7C a year ago on March 11, 2025. However, the applicant has since revised the plat layout and is seeking board reapproval of the application. Revised layout consists of 428 residential lots, 36 tracts, and associated public roads and private alleys on 47 acres within the Sterling Ranch plan development. This request is a reduction of 2 residential lots from the version of the final plat previously approved. The intent of the final plat process is to provide for review of the final engineering plans, subdivision improvement agreement, public dedications, and other legal agreements. The Sterling Ranch PD, indicated by the red star, is generally located in the northwest portion of the county. Sterling Ranch PD is located in the Chatfield urban area as designated on the 2040 Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan. The site is located east of Roxborough Park Road, approximately 3,000 feet north of its intersection with Waterton Road. This is an aerial of the property. Portions of filing 7A are to the east and south, and filing 7B is located north of the site. Unplatted portions of Sterling Ranch development are located to the west of the site across Roxborough Park Road. This slide depicts the final plat exhibit, which has been redesigned to extend Joyce Edom Avenue, highlighted in yellow, approximately 400 feet to the west. The extension provides an additional point of access to Roxborough Park Road. The new layout results in 428 residential lots, 2 lots than previously approved. These are the approval standards applicable to a final plat. A detailed assessment of the project's compliance with all approval standards is included in the staff report. The revised layout of filing 7C does not affect the provision of services previously reviewed and approved by the board in March of 2025. All updated plans, studies, and reports required for filing 7C have been reviewed and approved by engineering, subject to minor technical corrections. Staff has evaluated the final plat request in accordance with Article 5 of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find the approval criteria for the final plat are met, following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in its motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $1,500 per single-family dwelling unit to the Douglas County School District for capital mitigation. For multifamily dwelling units within the final plat, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $750 per unit to the Douglas County School District for capital mitigation prior to site improvement plan approval. Condition number 2, prior to recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall provide payment to Douglas County for the pro rata share costs towards improvements to the state highway system in accordance with the commitments set forth in the Sterling Ranch PD. Condition number 3, prior to recordation of the final plat, the property within filing 7C shall be included into one or more of the Sterling Ranch metropolitan districts. Condition number 4, prior to recordation of the final plat, private telecommunication easements shall be recorded and reception numbers noted on the final plat exhibit. Condition number 5, prior to recordation of the final plat, technical corrections to the final plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition number 6, Colorado Division of Wildlife Literature shall be made available to prospective homeowner or home buyers concerning the possible presence of wildlife and shall be available at all times. Condition number 7, a burrowing owl survey shall be performed if any earth moving will begin between March 15th and October 31st. And condition number 8, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public meeting and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. The prior approval of filing 7C by the board in March 2025 included a condition that the applicant coordinate with Excel. The applicant and Excel have come to an agreement on a plat note, and the condition of approval has been satisfied. Section 50406 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's determination on final plat request as noted on this slide. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to take questions on the staff report. Otherwise, the applicant has a presentation.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions for Brett?
I have none.
All right, let's have the applicant for their presentation. Looks like Mr. Junk. And Mr. Junk, when you come forward, please do give us your name and your affiliation with the application.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Jonk, Johnkk. I am the Entitlements and Engineering Director for Sterling Ranch Development Company. I only have a few slides to highlight the minor change that we are asking for on the 7C final plat, so my presentation will be brief. So almost exactly 1 year ago today, this final plat was approved unanimously by this board. As you know, our development model at Sterling Ranch is to begin construction of neighborhood infrastructure upon your approval. Once we deliver that infrastructure, we then typically record the plat and start selling lots to builders. Indeed, since your approval, we have been hard at work constructing this portion of the neighborhood. We are nearly complete with sub-excavation activities where we mitigate expansive soils, and we're also placing underground utilities. Now, building these new neighborhoods typically takes more than the 1 year recordation period that can be authorized by the planning director. So we almost always must request an extension from you, Commissioners. We would normally be requesting that extension from you today. However, we saw an opportunity to make a minor roadway extension that we believe will enhance the connectivity and safety of the community. The update is shown on this next slide. It depicts kind of the before and after of this requested change. You'll only see one update. We are requesting the roadway titled Joyce Sedum Avenue, which currently ends in the middle of the subdivision, be extended approximately 400 feet to connect to Roxborough Park Road. This connection, it represents a benefit for Sterling Ranch and for Douglas County, as it will further improve emergency response and traffic capacity, as well as add some more street parking for our future residents. Now, in order to accomplish this, we will be reducing our lot count by 2 homes, meaning we're going to also marginally reduce demands for traffic, water, sewer, and energy in this neighborhood. To Sterling Ranch, the added value to this part of the community is worth the decreased density. Aside from this minor adjustment, everything else remains the same in this filing from the original approval last year. We still comply with the neighborhood plan, and we still comply with all of the approval criteria. That concludes my presentation. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. I would please ask that you vote to approve this adjustment. I am also available for any questions. Lastly, we do accept the proposed conditions as listed by staff. Thank you.
All right, questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I think it's interesting because if you look back on Douglas County history, Mission Viejo and Shea were sort of made fun of for developing these huge thoroughfares. People called them runways, like at the airport. And, you think about where we're at now in Commissioner Van Winkle's district. Rarely, if ever, are you going to have any backups in traffic. It's very easy to navigate Highlands Ranch. I, as just one commissioner, really appreciate this modification, not only from a mobility standpoint, but just thinking about emergency access. If there is a wildfire or something catastrophic, getting people in and out of this community is really important. And we see that more and more as build-out continues and more residents continue to populate this important location. Thanks.
Further questions?
Not at this time.
All right. I don't know. I don't think I have any questions. It looks pretty simple to me. Okay. Any further questions from the board for the applicant? All right, Mr. Jonk, let's go ahead and have you take a seat, and we'll bring you back up after public comment. I did not get anyone signed up for public comment on this item. Is there anyone who would like to give public comment on this revised filing? Seeing none. Bringing it back to the applicant, Mr. Jonk, any final words?
Nothing further, Commissioners. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jonk. Board, how would we like to proceed on this revised filing?
Mr. Chair, if it does please the board, I'll make a motion to approve Sterling Ranch filing number 7C because it does meet all of the approval criteria with the 8 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2024-060.
And I'll second that motion. This is a plot of land and a plan that's been under scrutiny for quite some time, years in fact. So this is the next step in it, and happy to see us here today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. No, I have no issues with the plan. Looks good. In that case, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the filing is approved. Our next item is Benedict and Collender exemption. Project file is EX 2025-007. Once again, Mr. Thomas.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Thomas, representing Community Development. The application before you is Benedict Collender exemption, project number EX 2025-007. Kevin Archer with David E. Archer and Associates is the applicant representative. The applicants request approval of an exemption to establish 3 residential lots on 14.81 acres for existing cabins in the Pike National Forest. The intent of the exemption process is to establish a review process for divisions of land that the board determines are outside of the purpose of the subdivision resolution. The exemption process includes submittal of an application, followed by a limited referral agency review period. No courtesy notice is required for this type of exemption application. The site is located in the southwest portion of the county, near Deckers. Proposed exemption is within the Pike National Forest and Foothills sub-area, as identified in Section 3 of the 2040 Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan. The site is located southwest of the intersection of State Highway 67 and Y Camp Road. The land to the northeast and west of the subject property is part of the Pike National Forest. This is an aerial of the property. South of the property is the YMCA's Camp Shady Brook. The 3 existing cabins were part of the 4 Mile Summer Home Camp that was formed around 1932 along 4 Mile Creek. The cabins were built in 1923, 1952, and 1954, respectively. The cabins and improvements have been sold and transferred over the past decades. However, the underlying land was owned by the federal government as part of the Pike National Forest up until 2017. In 2017, the federal government relinquished its rights through a quitclaim deed to the owners of the cabins. Current exemption request is to establish 3 residential lots, 1 for each of the existing cabins. This slide depicts the exemption exhibit. The site is bounded on the east by 4 Mile Creek and Y Camp Road. Locations of the existing cabins are relatively flat, while the rest of the property rises steeply into the Pike National Forest to the west. Core Electric Cooperative has an existing overhead electric facility across the west portions of the subject property. The applicant has revised the exhibit to include a 30-foot easement for core facilities. The intent of the exemption process is to establish a review process for divisions of land that the board determines are outside the purpose of the subdivision resolution. Staff has evaluated the exemption request in accordance with Article 9 of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find that the eligibility criteria and other provisions of Article 9 have been met, following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation of the exemption exhibit, technical corrections to the exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition number 2, prior to recordation of the exemption exhibit, 30-foot core easement shall be executed and recorded by separate instrument. And condition number 3, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public meeting and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 90404 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's action on exemption requests as noted on the slide. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to take questions at this time. Otherwise, Kevin Archer is available on behalf of the owners.
All right, thanks, Brett. Any questions?
I have none.
You said the years that these were built. Could you just repeat that?
I believe it was 1923,
I heard 20.
1952, and 1954.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have no questions. Would the applicant like to present? Mr. Archer, we've seen you many times, but please do give your your name and your credentials and your affiliation with this application.
Thank you, Commissioners. Kevin Archer, Dave Archer and Associates. We help process the application through the county for the property owners. I have Andy and Nancy Benedict, Roseanne Bennett, and Tim and Laura Colander here with me today. Don't really have anything more to add. Brett did a good job presenting the history and whatnot. So with that, we're just available to answer questions if you have any.
All right, any questions for the applicant?
I don't have any.
No.
Nor I. We'll go ahead and give you another chance or the owners, chance for last words after public comment. I did not receive any signups for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this matter? Seeing none. Okay, Mr. Archer, you have the last word.
No further comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bringing back to the board, how would we like to dispose of this exemption?
Mr. Chair. Oh, Mr. Chair, a great opportunity again to mention Douglas County at large. These are 3 homes, been there since 1923 and 2 in the early 1950s. Far away, right along the South Platte River and kind of alone out there almost. So if anyone signs up for Doug Alerts, I hope these 3 homeowners do. And I hope everyone does. With that, Mr. Chair, I move to approve Bennett, and Colander exemption because it does meet all the approval criteria with the, what condition?
3.
With the 3 conditions as presented. And this is project file EX 20.2025-007.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. Actually, Commissioner, you are so wrong. It is within a 5-minute drive from the Deckers gas station and cafe. And there are various times during the summertime when the road on the other side of that creek is full of, let me see, a 2000 Mercury Cougar, a 2005 Mercury Mariner. Yeah, I think those were the vehicles owned by 931 Eaglestone Drive for about a 10-year period of time when certain children by the last name of Teal were being dropped off at the YMCA camp. My only regret with this entire thing is that I don't have to recuse myself because I'm sitting right there. I am somewhat familiar with these parcels. Boy, oh boy, guys, what great, I'd say great luck, but you guys made choices to put yourselves in this position. So if my board would like to join me in voting in favor of this exemption, I will issue you congratulations in a moment. Any further discussion? There is a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. To Bennett, Benedict and Cullender families. Congratulations, good health, good luck, and a long life. Please enjoy your properties here in Douglas County. And yes, I am jealous. All right, let's go ahead and move into our public hearing agenda items. Our first item is Pinery Village Filing 2, Minor Development Final Plat. Project file is SB 2021-049. Request for continuation, Mr. Pasica, Mike Pasica for staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mike Pasica representing Community Development, and this item is the Pinery Village Filing 2 Minor Development Final Plat, and this is a request by the applicant for a continuance to the March 24th, 2026 Board of County Commissioners hearing at 2:30 p.m. to have additional time to finalize improvement agreements that are required for the Minor Development Final Plat.
All right, any questions for Mr. Pasica, please? All right, with no questions from the board, I did not receive any requests for public comment. Board, how would we like to proceed with this request to continue?
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to continue the Pinery Village Filing 2 Minor Development Final Plat, Project File SB 2021-049 to March 24th, 2026 at 2:30 p.m.
I second the continuation motion.
All right, there's a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the item is continued. Our next item up is Douglas County zoning resolution amendments for large daycare homes. Project file is DR 2025-007. And Melanie Estrada, planning technician for staff.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melanie Estrada. I'm representing the Department of Community Development. The project file number is DR 2025-007 for the proposed zoning amendments. It's not on screen though. Thank you. This is a request for approval for changes to the Douglas County zoning resolution, sections 3 through 9, agricultural 1, large rural residential, estate residential, suburban residential, multifamily, and mobile home districts, section 14B, Sedalia Downtown District, 14D, Sedalia Mixed Use Industrial District, section 21, use by special review, and section 36, definitions. Per zoning resolution section 109, the Board of County Commissioners shall evaluate the proposed amendment, referral comments, staff report, the Planning Commission recommendation, and public testimony, and shall approve with modifications, table for further study, remand to the Planning Commission, or deny the proposed amendments. The review process is the following. Board of County Commissioners work sessions were held in 2025. Following these, the board directed staff to put the proposed zoning amendment on referral from September 22nd through October 22nd, 2025. A public workshop was held on October 9th. After a board work session following the referral period, referral comments and the revised regulations were presented to the board, and the board directed staff to move forward with the public hearings. Following published public notice, the request was considered by the Planning Commission at a public hearing. Following the hearing with the Planning Commission, the request is heard before the Board of County Commissioners. State legislation passed in 2021 requires that local governments treat small and large child care homes as a residential use when applying all local zoning and building codes. Local governments are prohibited from imposing any additional regulations that do not also apply to other residential uses. Under the current regulations, a small daycare home provides care for up to 6 children or 9 with a special state-issued license and is an accessory use in all residential zone districts. A large daycare home provides care for up to 12 children or adults and requires a use by special review. The proposed amendments update the definition of daycare homes in Section 36 to remove the distinction between small and large daycare homes. The amendment also applies to daycare homes for adults. In the proposed amendments, a daycare home is now defined as a residence in which care is provided for up to 12 children or adults for periods of less than 24 consecutive hours. All daycare homes will be a residential accessory use. A public workshop was held on October 9th. No public attended. The Planning Commission hearing for these proposed amendments was held on February 23rd, 2026. One member of the public commented with concerns about staffing levels for larger facilities. Staff responded that these facilities will be licensed through the state. The Planning Commission recommended approval 7-0. After reviewing the proposed amendments, referral comments, and staff report, the board may approve with modifications, table for further study, remand to the Planning Commission, or deny. Thank you for your time. Staff is available for any questions.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Turning to the board, any questions for staff on this change to our zoning resolution?
I have none.
Are you sure, Commissioner? I mean, you have more than a passing knowledge of this. Are you sure we didn't do it? We did it right?
I am curious as to who the sponsors of the original underlying legislation were, but we can save. That's okay. I'm sure they were very wise.
I mean, I know the answer, but let us proceed. With no questions from the board, we'll open the floor for any public comment. I did not receive anyone signing up for public comment on this amendment to the zoning resolution. Is there anyone who'd like to make public comment? Seeing none. Bringing back to the board for decision on this amendment to our zoning resolution and maybe answering Commissioner Van Winkle's question about who the original sponsors were.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is actually quite a proud moment for me because it's coming full circle. This passed in 2021. And the origination is there were, there was like a grandma on a neighborhood street or a mom or a family that they would watch their fellow neighborhood kids during the day, or even just, you take your kids over to your grandma's house or something. And they were running into all kinds of just headaches and troubles with local regulations that were just incredibly burdensome, to the point where it's like if you're going to watch your grandkids and the neighbor kids, you're going to have to install a sprinkler system throughout your entire house. Putting those commercial regulations onto just regular homes and neighborhoods. So the state legislature, by a 99-1 vote margin, passed this bill that was, and it was indeed sponsored by myself and at the time Chris Holbert, who was the senator of the time from Douglas County. Douglas County, of course, is on the forefront of reducing red tape, reducing regulations, making it easier for people to live, work, and raise a family here. So I don't think we were necessarily the problem child, but happy to see this come full circle and just allow child care for the people of Douglas County to be just a little bit easier, because child care is hard to come by. It's very expensive, and if there is that trusted neighbor where you can drop your kids off for a few hours during the day while you go to work or run errands or something, they shouldn't be faced with all the heavy regulations that would come with a commercial big facility. So happy to see this come full circle. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will move to approve Douglas County zoning resolution amendments for large daycare homes, project filed DR 2025-007.
And I will speak I'll second that motion, and I wish to speak in favor of it as well.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, our commissioner colleague is being humble. We have a couple of things on the agenda today that are very full circle that began as state legislation, and it's awfully fun to be able to pass local ordinances that comport with the leadership that occurred before. But Kevin has done a wonderful job of eliminating red tape and focusing that on his term in office, minimizing regulation, and allowing Douglas County citizens to operate with a measure of freedom. I think like many days in the past, we talk about Douglas County being sort of like Mayberry, it just has 400,000 people, right? But if we can keep it safe and free, I think it certainly harkens back to that time.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of the motion? I'll speak in favor of the motion. I think this is great. Again, Commissioner Van Winkle, you said it. Hey, let's get rid of red tape. Let's get out of people's way. Let's let them do the right thing for their neighbors so that they can provide for themselves instead of turning to government to provide it for them. So I think this is great. I, too, commend you. I know a little bit about starting something up before you get to this dais, only to sometimes be able to finish it at this dais. So good job, Kevin.
And my apologies. I said Senator Holbert. It was actually Senator Smallwood who joined me in the mission. Apologies. It's been a couple years.
Jim won't mind, I'm sure. All right, gentlemen, any further discussion? All in favor of this amendment to the Douglas County zoning resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that amendment passes. Our next item is Highlands Ranch filing 159, minor development, final plat. Project file is SB 2023-022. Carolyn Washi Freeland presenting for staff. Jeff.
Community Development. The item before you is the Highlands Ranch filing 159 minor development final plat. The project number is SB 2023-022. John Kilrow from Shea Properties is here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is requesting approval of a minor development plat to establish one 9.69 acre lot for future development of a senior apartment complex. The intent of the minor development process is to provide a streamlined review process for non-residential and multifamily subdivisions. The minor development process begins with the submittal of an application, followed by staff comments. The request is forwarded to referral agencies. At the beginning of the referral period, courtesy notifications of an application in process are sent to abutting property owners. Staff further analyzes the request, and the applicant is provided the opportunity to address any issues identified through the referral period. Public notice is provided, and the request is heard by the Planning Commission prior to consideration by the Board of County Commissioners. Referral comments were standard in nature and have been addressed through various revisions to the exhibit. During the process, no public comments were received, and the applicant provided a written response to all referral agency comments. The Planning Commission heard the proposal at a public hearing on March 2nd and unanimously recommended approval by a vote of 7-0. No members of the public spoke in response to the application. The Planning Commission asked various clarifying questions regarding traffic, provisions of the Highlands Ranch Plan development, and future site improvement plan, the future site improvement plan process. The project area shown by the red stars in the far northeastern portion of the county, generally located on Plaza Drive, 1/4 mile east of Erickson Boulevard, south of C-470, and 1/2 mile west of Plaza Drive and Kendrick Castillo Way intersection. The property is located within the primary urban area of the 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan. The project area outlined in red is zoned as part of the Highlands Ranch Plan development. 3 unplatted tracts were combined to create one 9.69 acre lot for a senior apartment development. The lot will be served by Highlands Ranch Water and Sanitation District. The subject property is located within the Highlands Ranch Plan Development in Planning Area 79. The Highlands Ranch PD was approved in 1979 and as a use by right in Planning Area 79, as a use by right, Planning Area 79 permits multifamily dwellings for sale or lease with a minimum of 10 units per building. The applicant is proposing one senior apartment building. The Highlands Ranch Plan Development Guide definition, section 48A, provides the definition for various types of elder housing, and further states that the dwelling unit density standards shall not apply to the development of elderly housing. The project site has existing easements that either border the site or are located within the proposed Lot 1. Here's the minor development final plat exhibit. The new lot will be accessed by a private driveway connecting to Plaza Drive, for which an easement has been obtained. A new sidewalk easement will be dedicated to the county to complete a gap in the existing sidewalk segment along Plaza Drive. General purpose utility easements will be dedicated to the county via the plat. This is a view looking to the northwest. The proposed lot is situated between Highway C-470 to the north and Plaza Drive to the south. This is a site view looking to the south. Highlands Ranch Water and Sanitation District's water treatment facility is adjacent to the site to the south. Some of the native vegetation is visible in this view. This photo looks to the east. The view shows the Solana Lucent Station multifamily apartment complex next to the site. This view is looking west through the site. The topography of the site has slopes that range between 15 to 25%. Vegetation on the site consists of native grasses and small shrubs. The approval standards for a minor development request are set forth in section 603A of the subdivision resolution and listed on this slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards are discussed in detail within the staff report. Staff has evaluated the minor development in accordance with Article 6A of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the minor development are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall conduct a burrowing out study for any earth moving that will take place between March 15th and October 31st. Condition number 2, during construction activity within the development, the owner, its successors, and assigns shall take reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County in the event of such discovery. Condition number 3, prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, technical corrections to the final plat shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition number 4, all conditions and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 604A.06 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters of the board's recommendation of a minor development request. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to take questions regarding the staff report. John Kilrow is here representing the applicant with the presentation and to answer questions about the request.
Caroline, can you just confirm the number of conditions, please? Was it 3 or 4?
It's 4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any further questions for Carolyn from the board?
You know, I'll reserve my questions, Chair, following the applicant's presentation.
Same.
All right, very good. Mr. Kilrow, come on forward.
Let's see, here's the click right here.
And sir, please do give us your name, your credentials, and your affiliation with this application, even though you are indeed known to the board.
Thank you, sir. My name is John Kilrow. I'm Senior Vice President of Shea Properties here in the Denver office. I've been connected to Highlands Ranch now for 44 years, as I started with a superintendent with a lot of hair. The presentation is a little lengthy. I apologize, but that's kind of the way we roll. And joining today is our legal representation. And I should know how to do this, but I guess I don't. Next slide will show you our team that's here today to answer any questions. We have legal representation from Mott & Johnson. Our traffic engineer is here as well. Civil engineer Redland, our surveyor. Dave Vasquez, who normally does our presentations and is more colorful than I am, is sick today. So he's at home on the second string. Kristen Bouchard is here. She's a development associate with us. And Chris Skellion, who is our construction lead on this. Next slide, please. I will talk a little bit about the opportunity we're presenting so you can see a little bit more about what we're going to do in the future, the location, our experience in this area, the project itself, and the proposed replat. There was some community outreach, not a lot. There's not a lot of residents around the area. And then finally, our request. Next slide, please. The location was talked about before. It's the northwest corner of Highlands Ranch, 9.686 acres. The project that will reside here is another senior affordable apartment in Highlands Ranch. We at Shea have a passion for these affordable apartment communities, and we'll talk a little bit more in the future about the Audrey, which is the one that's in Town Center. We had a favorable referral from the Planning Commission and look forward to your thoughts. Next slide, please. Next slide. This shows a little bit where we sit in 2 points of interest here. This area in green was the original Highlands Ranch Business Park. I say original. It was amended a little bit back when the originally the business park extended all the way to Santa Fe Drive. It was amended about 15 years ago to accommodate the golf course as well as the residential there. And at one point in its history, Mission Viejo was negotiating with Elages to move there. Had a change of heart on that, and it went away. The yellow 2 areas were part of the rezoning in 2015 that rezoned the business park into a more of a mixed-use area. Next slide, please. This slide shows a little bit of the fruits of that labor. UC Hospital moved in. They started phase 2 and built another building, 110,000 feet that's already spoken for, and they just added on to the hospital another 60 beds or so. Central Park Retail, as well as the Chroma Apartments, were built in that area, and we encouraged Children's Hospital to open a hospital, and they've done, unfortunately, very well. I say unfortunately because there's a lot of patients that visit that hospital. Next slide, please. Talk a little bit about our experience here. Next slide. We've built the affordable Audrey apartment, senior affordable apartment, the Sophia, which is in lease up now, as well as Apex West, East, and South. Those, again, are all affordable apartments, and most of them stay 90 to 95%, always 95% occupied at any given time. As you know, the lease rate in these apartments shift every year. We've been careful about not increasing rents too quickly and keeping the homeowners occupying the units and happy. We don't always tip the scale on going to the highest point of the allowable rent. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the Audrey, and a little time to chat about that. We averaged about 32 leases per month on lease up. It's been a very good apartment community for Highlands Ranch. We've maintained occupancy about 99% since opening, and 57% of the current residents live there since the opening in 2021. Pretty proud of that. It's our average renewal rate's running about 91%. People just don't move out of there. We do have some residents that shift from one bedroom to a 2-bedroom. There's been a couple marriages out of there. Our apartment rating is, we're at 4.8 stars and about 900 reviews. So I think people that live there tend to be happy. Next slide, please. This shows the relative location of the two. The Audrey was on a site that was about half the size, but that was because the parking structure next to it, that is also owned by Shea, was utilized for the Audrey Apartments. This one, the site is a little too large for what we're doing, but we have a solution for that. And I'll show you that next slide. 2 slides, please. And why more affordable? What we found out at the Audrey is the opportunity to stay close to family and or to remain in the community has been a big driver for folks living there. Like many other affordable senior facilities, they stay fully occupied. Next slide. We're meeting a growing need in the county. 60-plus age group is the fastest growing age group right now in Metro Denver. And we anticipate 36,000 residents over 60 will be happening by 2035. Go to the project, please. Next slide. This shows the exact location again, Plaza Drive near Flying Bee, the Flying Bee Park. Lot size is about 9.6 acres. The affordable housing program will be pretty much our standard program, which is a 4% low-income housing, LIHTC tax credit deal, restricted to 60% of the AMI, and age restricted at 55. A little unique in this sector. We maybe overdue parking a little bit, but we find it's necessary. We park it at 1.26 spaces per unit. Next slide, please. This is the concept drawing of what we're anticipating this will look like. Some similarities to the Erickson community, which is the adult community to the essentially southwest of this. That, as you know, is you buy in a share to that. You basically own a unit. It's a life estate kind of deal. Next slide, please. Proposed replat. One more, please. Again, this shows the existing site with the 3 lots, which we're extinguishing lots 2 and 3, turning it into one large lot. That is shown on the next slide. The minor development plat will be the entire parcel. Next slide, please. One more. Pending site approval will come to, we will have some utility and infrastructure easements, and we'll come back to that via separate document when we know where they are. Next one. This is a preliminary site plan, and you'll see the building that we had shown before is on the east half. The west half, we're in negotiations right now with the Metropolitan District to build a Metro District Park. One of the things that we were able to gain information from is their surveys when they built the senior center. And one of the things that came back loud and clear is community gardens were important. We're proposing to build a park that the Metro District will operate, which will be full of community gardens for the residents in the area, as well as these residents here and some from Erickson. It will also have outdoor fitness equipment and a walking trail. Also, you'll see on the left side is trail parking. This is for connectivity to the Highline Canal Trail. That's been an issue lately. The Flying Bee Ranch has some parking, but not enough for folks that jump on the trail. So we're dedicating an area for trail parking. Again, that's a Metro District facility. But that will be part of the land that we will oversee and allow them to use via an easement, more than likely a license agreement. It's designed to meet current site constraints, trail parking, community gardens, and again, the Metro District will manage that park. Next slide, please. And again, our traffic consultant is here to ask any additional questions, but there's 3 proposed access intersections along Plaza. The level of service has been B or better during peak up through 2045. Plaza Erickson build operation is acceptable during peak hours, again through 2045. And we're expected to have approximately 4,200 to 9,000 vehicles per day through 2045. Now again, this use is not overly dense in as much as we're, as a pure density apartment, we're pretty light given that we're giving part of this to a park. Because a 4-lane highway typically will accommodate about 35,000 trips per day. Your comment earlier about Highlands Ranch traffic rings true here as well. If we may, the next slide, please. We'll run through some of our goals in the next slide. The minor development plat will complement the county in achieving the comprehensive goals and will allow for development and support a healthy community with the proximity to the parks in the Highline Canal. And additionally, putting a park on site is not the worst thing we could do. The lot's consistent with the adjacent multifamily use, although they may struggle a little bit because they've been talking about their views, and this will impede their views a little bit. Next slide, please.
What views will be impaired?
The views from the pool of the adjacent apartment project.
Of the next, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
The land dedication has been accounted for within the Highlands Ranch PD earlier. Next slide. Highlands Ranch Water, which of course was formerly Centennial, has given us a letter with adequate supply, quality, sanitation service, and feasibility of service. We did engage a noise study. Next slide, please. And the techniques of the buildings will ensure we meet the max DNL levels inside and outside in public spaces. Next slide. We appreciate and hope that you find us in compliance with the all the criteria for zoning, existing proposed utilities, school land, and the right for the multifamily units. Although this is typically the interesting part of the presentation, in as much as Highlands Ranch started with 34,600 units, we are down to the last 200 units or so in Highlands Ranch. So the Highlands Ranch plat conversations are coming to an end, as is my career there. Timely. The outreach, next slide, please. Schools, fire, sheriff, utilities, we meet all the criterias. Next slide, please. The Metro District, of course, has been a big part of our conversation here with the park as well as utilities. Ben Franklin Academy is across the street, and the Solano Apartments. We've met with all those groups. Next, please. The zoning and infrastructure is in place. We have strong support from the community, no public opposition. In fact, we're already getting calls from people wondering when we're going to do this, because people that are on the waiting list at the Audrey are looking for a senior affordable apartment in the community. We've got an early commitment for bonds from the Denver Housing Authority, so we're lining this thing up. Next slide, please. This shows our anticipated and hopeful schedule. Design will progress through 26. We hope to start construction late in the year, finish up, and start leasing in 2028 if all goes well. Next slide, please. We understand these conditions of approval, the Burrowing Owl study, the historic resources that could be there, and any technical correction to the plat prior to recordation. Next slide. The plan meets all requirements, we believe. Staff comments have been addressed. We believe staff is in full support, and the Planning Commission did offer us unanimous approval. Our next slide. Our request is to, we're seeking your approval for the plat, and we'd like to get started on this last affordable community in Highlands Ranch. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kilrow. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I don't have questions, probably consistent with my theme for today, but some comments. Mr. Kilrow, thank you for being here, but not just for being here, but for your decades of service to this community. If you haven't heard that on behalf of the county, thank you.
Thank you.
You talked a little bit about all of us aging in place. I just turned 50 in February, so I feel like I'm starting to get that a little bit. But we're not just aging in place. I feel like with Shay, you're aging with us. And it's really pretty special. I think for many of the developers that come before this board, they have learned and grown and observed what is successful in this county. And I will tell you, having started as a planning commissioner a decade ago, I never have to worry about Shay. And I don't flatter. You know, the reality is we need more workforce housing. We need more senior housing based upon the demographics. You show up, you want to provide that. You have an aesthetic, well-designed project before us. I mean, this is preliminary, we get that, but it is consistent with the high quality of product that Shay always produces. And, you know, it's not a coincidence. I didn't realize, you know, I didn't even notice you back there when I made the comment about the roads, but it's true. It's one of the things that we talk about. The kinds of things that we appreciate today can be traced back to your leadership and the planning and the hard work that Mission Viejo and Shay put in decades ago. So it's a pleasure. I think the other big thing from a commissioner standpoint, whether it's planning or on this board, it's community outreach. I know before you even get here, the number of letters and comments and conversations that you've had with the demographic you intend to serve, with adjacent communities, is prolific. So again, I just wrap that in a comment of thank you. I appreciate. I don't have questions. I'm just pleased to see you before us. Hope you don't retire too fast.
Well, I will comment on that. There's a strong team behind us. Our average tenure for the new folks coming up is over 10 years. So we anticipated the day will come. And when it's come, you'll be served just as well by the new team.
That's great.
But thank you.
Commissioner Van Winkle, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, just you mentioned outreach to the school that's located very, very near, close by there. What was their response?
None really. They're pleased that it's not an overly dense apartment community. Pleased that there won't be a lot of driving in and out because they have concerns with traffic, their own traffic, at peak hours. So
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
it does make sense. Thank you.
All right, I have no questions at this time. We'll go ahead and open for public comment, and then, Mr. Kilrow, you can come back for the last word in response to any public comment. I did not receive any signups for public comment on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this item at this time? Seeing none, Mr. Kilrow, you have the opportunity for the last words.
Thank you, Commissioner. My last words is thank you for your kind words, and thank you for all the support you've always given us. And to you too, Doug. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kilrow. I've got a couple questions, turning back to staff. Carolyn, I've got to ask again, can we get an count on the number of conditions, please? Because I did notice, particularly from the applicant's presentation, 3 conditions were noted. I didn't see a 4th outlined in the staff report. So for the record, can we just get a good count on the number of conditions?
Carolyn Freeland for staff. There are 4 conditions. Initially, there were 3 in the Planning Commission's packet, but for the Board of County Commissioners staff report, there is a 4th one that is added. Basically, it's all the commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during public hearing and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all commitments and promises. So there's a total of 4, and so that last one is basically added when it gets to your approval.
Okay, can we go back in the staff report slides and kind of just make sure we walk through all 3? Excuse me, all 4. Got it.
Oh, okay, so it was on the presentation. The presentation, there's, the 4th one has been marked as 3.
Okay, let's go.
Apologize for that.
No sweat. Let's go look at 1 and 2 then. Okay, hang on a second.
Borrowing owl study. Burrowing owl study. Okay.
Please advance the slide. Okay, let's go to the applicant's slide, please. And in the final quarter of those slides, we had acknowledgement by in the presentation on acceptance of conditions. All right, so, Mr. Kilrow, may I please ask you to approach again? And I am seeing conditions 1, 2, and 3 acknowledged here that you did acknowledge, you agreed to. May I ask you, do you accept the 4th condition?
Yes, sir. John Kilrow with Shea Properties. Yes, we accept all conditions by staff.
Okay. I just want to do that because I
Well, I
don't want
appreciate
you coming back and saying that there was something that you didn't agree to. Thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's bring it back to the board for action on this application for a minor development plat.
So just to confirm, did we settle on the number of conditions?
To my satisfaction, Commissioner, I think we got all 4 of them all squared away, and And we just had the applicant agree to the fourth one. And so I think we're good to go.
Okay, well, if it does please the board, I'll make a motion to approve Highlands Ranch filing 159 minor development final plat because it does meet all of the approval criteria with 4 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2023-022.
I'll second the motion. I think this clearly serves a key need for the community. Senior affordable housing, something in desperate need across the whole metro area, but here in Douglas County, this will fulfill a specific need for that. Also, I love the community gardens, the future park by the Metro District, and then the Highline Canal parking trail. That's a little added benefit that will serve a true community purpose for so many getting out there to the wonderful Highline Canal that we as a board have invested money in supporting and bringing up to snuff. So big thanks to the developers for the presentation today. And who would have thought that the last pieces of Highlands Ranch, either the last project or second to last project for Highlands Ranch of this magnitude would come and go in no community opposition whatsoever. That's incredible. Usually there's one person that's grumpy about anything that happens, especially here as Highlands Ranch comes to a close of its development. So kudos to those who put in so much time and effort into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. There are a few things that make nearly as much sense as putting a senior community development in a place where senior community is growing that happens to be exactly to the northeast of one of the largest senior community developments in the state. Just kind of makes sense to me. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And the minor development final plat is approved. Our next item up is Ramblewood. Preliminary plan project file is SB 2025-040. Trevor Bedford presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Trevor Bedford, representing Community Development. The request is the Ramblewood Preliminary Plan. The project number is SB 2025-040. Dan Sheldon with Miller United is the applicant representative. The Ramblewood Preliminary Plan proposes 70 units over approximately 177 acres with approximately 60 acres of open space. Central water will be provided to all lots by Parker Water and Sanitation District. Central sewer will be provided to single-family lots by Parker Water and Sanitation District through an intergovernmental agreement with Pinery Water and Wastewater. The 2 agricultural lots will be served by individual septic system with the option to connect to central sewer if desired. The intent of the preliminary plan process is shown on this slide. The preliminary plan process begins with the submittal of an application. Following comments by staff, the request is forwarded to referral agencies and courtesy notices of application and process are mailed to abutting landowners.
Where's that money?
The applicant is given an opportunity to address referral comments and other issues before public hearings are scheduled before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. Referral comments were standard in nature. South Metro Fire requested modifications to a fire turnaround and for the agricultural lots to connect to water services, central water services. The applicant has revised the project to meet South Metro's requirements. Core Electric provided comments regarding grading within easements, which have been addressed. And the applicant has received approval of its wildfire mitigation plan by the county wildfire mitigation specialist. Douglas County Historic Preservation will require a Class 2 cultural resources survey prior to ground disturbance, which the applicant has submitted and is under review. Courtesy notices were sent to abutting property owners. One property owner in Hidden Village submitted concerns regarding an easement for offsite utilities near their property. Those comments, along with the applicant's response, is included in the staff report attachments. Public comment was received prior to the Planning Commission hearing from residents primarily in Tallman Gulch and Stagecoach Acres subdivisions. These residents were generally expressed concerns with smaller lot sizes and cut-through traffic impacts. Since the Planning Commission hearing, additional public comment was received supporting the project, primarily from residents within the Hidden Village subdivision, who generally expressed preferences for clustered lots, central water services, and new fire hydrants within Bramblewood. All referral comments have been addressed, and all comments and applicant responses are attached to the staff report. The Planning Commission heard the proposal at a public hearing on February 23rd, 2026. After presentations by the staff and applicant, members of the public spoke in opposition and in favor of the application. Speakers in opposition generally discussed compatibility with the rural character of the area. The speaker in favor discussed the applicant's community outreach and design of the project. Planning commissioners asked questions regarding clustering, rural character, and plans for sewer. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the application by a vote of 5-2. The two commissioners voting against the project felt the smaller lots did not conform to the CMP approval standard. The project site is in the northeast subarea of the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan, as shown on this vicinity map. Non-urban densities of up to 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres are generally supported in this subarea. This map shows the zoning in the area. The subject property is zoned Bramblewood PD and is adjacent to rural residential and estate residential zone lots in the Hidden Village subdivision to the east, south, and west, and an A1 zone parcel to the northwest. Tallman Gulch, a cluster bonus density rural residential zone subdivision, is located on the other side of Hilltop Road. The Fields subdivision, zoned estate residential, is further southeast along Hilltop Road. The gross residential density of the Bramblewood preliminary plan is 1 unit per 2.5 acres, generally consistent with estate residential type of zoning. This aerial map provides some additional context. The area highlighted in red shows the boundaries of the Bramblewood preliminary plan. The property has been historically zoned and used for agriculture. The subject property was rezoned from Agricultural 1 to Agricultural 1 and rural residential to the Bramblewood plan development in August 2025. This exhibit shows the Bramblewood plan development plan on the left and the proposed preliminary plan on the right. Planning Area A allows for 68 single-family residential units as shown on the preliminary plan. Planning Areas D and E are open space buffers to the Hidden Village properties and are a part of open space tracts H and G on the preliminary plan. Planning Area B allows for 2 agricultural lots as shown on the preliminary plan exhibit. Planning Area C allows for uses accessory to agricultural lots where no dwelling units are allowed, and this is shown as Tract A on the preliminary plan. The single-family lots range in size from 13,500 square feet to 26,817 square feet, and this is consistent with the minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet required in Planning Area A. The agricultural lots are 26.29 acres and 53.38 acres. This is consistent with the minimum lot size of 20 acres required in Planning Area B. The project's primary access will be via Hilltop Road with a secondary access via Alpine Drive. This shows more detail of the layout of the single-family residential lots in the northern portion of the development. An approximately 1.5 acre park is proposed in Tract D along with a network of trails throughout open space and other tracts. Trails aren't allowed use in the open space areas of the Bramblewood PD. The Douglas County subdivision resolution requires submittal of evidence that a property has been included in a water district at the time of application for a preliminary plan, but includes a provision for this to be deferred by the director with good cause shown. In this case, the applicant requested and was granted a deferral of this documentation until the Board of County Commissioners' consideration of the final plat. The project will additionally require off-site improvements to provide central sewer services. This will be reviewed as a location and extent application prior to approval of the final plat. This is a photograph from Hilltop Road across from Maryvale Trail, facing generally southwest. This is a view looking north from Alpine Drive. This road is proposed to be improved by Douglas County as a part of its capital improvements program. This photo is from Alpine Drive, generally facing south. The approval standards for a preliminary plan request are set forth in section 403 of the subdivision resolution and listed on this slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards, including subdivision design, are discussed in detail within pages 7 through 9 of the staff report. Staff has evaluated the preliminary plan in accordance with Article 4 of the Douglas County zoning resolution. Should the board find the approval standards for the preliminary plan are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition 1, prior to the board's consideration of the first final plat, the applicant shall provide evidence of inclusion of the property in the Parker Water and Sanitation District. Condition 2, prior to the board's consideration of the final plat, the applicant shall provide a Class 2 cultural resources survey for the property. Condition 3, prior to the board's consideration of the final plat, a location and extent for required off-site sewer improvements shall be submitted and approved. Condition 4, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County and complete appropriate Colorado Office of Archaeology and Historic Preservation data management forms in the event of such discovery. Condition number 5, technical corrections to the record copy of the preliminary plan exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And finally, condition 6, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available for questions regarding the staff report. Otherwise, the applicant is prepared with a presentation and available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Trevor. Board, any questions for Trevor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did have a question, Trevor. Thank you for the presentation. It looked like, so Planning Commission's vote was 5-2.
Yes.
Can you summarize for us what the objections were?
It was generally looking at the lots that are more clustered towards the north end of the development. I think 2 commissioners thought that was not the rural character of the area, and the area generally has some larger lots. This one, they clustered based on the planned development to kind of minimize the impacts to the land.
Okay, so was there a particular approval standard? Was that rural character?
I think they were looking at the number 1 conforms with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner, any questions for Trevor?
Well, that does raise a question in my mind, because when you look at this proposal, you look at the surrounding communities, it looks pretty similar to the Fields and Talman's Gulch layouts. But I guess my one question, it may not be for you, maybe for the applicant, they can cover it during their presentation, which is, it looks like Lot 3 of the preliminary plan will be the closest to any other property, which would be Lot 98 of Hidden Village. I'm curious as to what the distances between those homes would be. And also, it looks like, is there like a hill or something in between those two? It looks like on the topographic map that there's, I don't know, something rather steep in that kind of gap between the communities.
I think that would be best for the applicant to address.
Okay, I'll leave it to them. Thank you.
All right, Trevor, I have no questions. Let's turn to the applicant. Mr. Sheldon, if you could have your team approach. Please do give us your name and your credentials and/or affiliation with this application.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Daniel Jennings with Norris Design, and I'm part of the project team. And just to be clear, Mr. Sheldon and I are going to kind of tag team giving this presentation, and I'm going to start things off. Commissioner Van Winkle, your question regarding lot number 3 and the distance from the adjacent property, I can go ahead and answer that. It's 289 feet. It is indeed the closest lot to that property line on that side of the project.
Okay, thank you.
So that said, we're pleased to give a presentation on our preliminary plan application, and we want to thank Trevor, of course, for his presentation and for working with us over the past 20 months to get to this point. We want to introduce our project team, starting with Dan Sheldon with Miller United Real Estate. He's the applicant. As I mentioned, my name is Daniel Jennings. I'm a planner with Norris Design. We also have Kevin Lovelace with LJA. Kevin is our civil engineer. We have Mike Roca with SM Roca. Mike is our traffic engineer. Gina Burke with Gen Water Consultants. Gina is our water resource consultant. We've got additional project support from Peter Wall and Joe Rapella, and we have David Foster with Foster Graham, Milstein, and Kalisher, our project's legal counsel. So our entire team is here and available to answer any questions you might have. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Dan to introduce himself.
Okay. Hi, Commissioners. Dan Sheldon, Miller United Real Estate, 6900 East Bellevue Avenue, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80111. I've been in front of you a number of times in the past. You've seen this slide from me in the past, but a little bit about us. We are a local community development group. We provide subdivisions to home builders up and down the Front Range with a concentration over the last decade in Douglas County. David Foster made mention to me as we were getting called up for our hearing here that I too have aged here in the county, as John Kilroe said. I have done a number of projects here in the county and have enjoyed each of them and being in front of you and your predecessors. Our company has been developing lots for about 32, 33 years now. We also have a community investment initiative where we give back to local groups in the jurisdictions in which we develop within. This is a new slide for you. In the past, you've seen slides of each of our projects up close and personal. We thought maybe we'd show it to you more of in a contextual manner this time, show you where our projects are in relation to the county. You can obviously see Ramblewood in green, and the rest of them are in Douglas County, with the exception of this one up here, which is our Elora project, which is abuts Douglas County, and we did a lot of cooperating efforts with your Public Works group on getting approvals to build infrastructure for that project. And I'm going to turn it back to Daniel. You'll see me just in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right, to get into the details of our application, the site is located in unincorporated Douglas County on the south side of Hilltop Road. It's roughly just under 177 acres in size. And if you recall, we came before you all last summer seeking approval of our zoning application, the Ramblewood Plan Development. And your approval of that PD last year set the stage for us to begin work on our preliminary plan. And the application we brought before you today is designed in accordance with the requirements of that approved PD. So here's our proposed preliminary plan. The site will be accessed from Hilltop Road on the north, Alpine Drive on the south. And in accordance with the PD, we're proposing a neighborhood of 68 single-family residential clustered lots on the northern half of the site and 2 agricultural ranch lots on the southern half. As shown in these tables, our plan meets and exceeds the requirements of the Ramblewood PD. We're proposing 70 lots across 176.8 acres, which equates to a density of 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres, which meets the zoning requirement and is consistent with the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan. Our proposed lot sizes range from 13,000 to 26,000 square feet in planning area A, which exceeds the minimum lot size requirement of 10,000 square feet. And our 2 agricultural lots are 26 acres and 53 acres in size, which exceeds the minimum lot size requirement for planning area B. If you recall, the Ramblewood PD has very specific buffer requirements written into it so that development of the site will fit in with the surrounding area. And our plan takes those buffer requirements even further than is required by the PD. We're doubling the required setback from Hilltop Road, and we're exceeding the buffer requirements of planning areas D and E. So Commissioner Van Winkle, you brought up Lot 3. That is adjacent to planning area E, which requires a 200-foot buffer from the adjacent property line. We're adding an additional 90 feet of distance from that lot to that adjacent property. And these buffers allow us to provide roughly 60 acres of open space across the site to ensure that our neighborhood is thoughtfully set back from those adjacent properties and that we preserve the natural edges of our site, which we think are really neat. So we believe our preliminary plan meets and exceeds the requirements of the Ramblewood PD. And we wanted to provide some background about the development process that we've been through up until this point, and the impact that our community engagement has had on the plan. So back in 2024, when we were still studying the site before we had actually submitted an application to the county, we went ahead and thought it was best to go ahead and have a neighborhood meeting with the surrounding community. We know that neighborhood outreach isn't required as part of the development process, but it's something that we do on all of our projects because we think it's important to be a good neighbor. And engaging with area residents is just part of it. And we want to hear from them because they often end up shaping our development how they have here. So before we submitted that official zoning application, we had a neighborhood meeting. We used it to introduce ourselves, to share our vision for the site, but really to listen to the neighbors and hear their feedbacks, answer any questions they had about development of the site. And we posted that presentation, recording that neighborhood meeting to our project website. And that first neighborhood meeting back in October of 2024 was just the first step in this ongoing outreach process we've had over the past 17 months. And through this continued conversation with our neighbors, there's been three kind of big priorities that have emerged. And we covered these at the zoning hearing, but they remain true to our preliminary plan application. So the first one is that our neighbors stress that any development should respect the natural character of our site. The second, they wanted assurance that development of the site would be served by a renewable water source and that it would not infringe on the water supply of the surrounding neighborhood. And third, we heard a lot about the need for firefighting infrastructure, kind of in the greater area of this part of Douglas County, and questions about how our development could potentially contribute to fire life safety for the surrounding community. And this dialogue, as I mentioned, it's shaped our project, and we want to kind of walk through the ways that our application addresses these three priorities. So first, our neighbors value the natural character of the site, and they expect development to respect that character. So from an overall perspective, we intend to develop the site in a way that minimizes impact on the land. We've aligned our roads with the alignment of existing dirt roads on the site, and we intend to respect the natural features, preserving existing trees and rock formations where it's possible. And then the lots of our single-family residential neighborhood are clustered. They're intentionally clustered in this way to preserve open space along the edges of the site. As I mentioned, our closest lot is more than 200 feet from Hilltop Road. And also, we're proposing roughly 60 acres of open space, including those large buffers from the residential lots adjacent to our site. And then the two ranch lots on the southern portion of the site are agricultural. So that land is just going to remain how it's currently being used as open ranch land for livestock. Our neighbors also want to understand how water will serve our development and what that impact would be to their water supply. We're going to be providing central water and sewer to all of the lots through an inclusion into Parker Water and Sanitation District. The sewer service to the site will come through a connection to an existing sewer line that's located off-site, and that sewer connection requires easements through some of our neighboring properties, and we've met with those property owners and shared this with the surrounding community, and we're going to work with them to ensure minimal disturbance when we get to that point in the project. And we can confirm that none of the water that will serve Ramblewood will come from the Upper Dawson, which is the aquifer that serves the Hidden Village neighborhood. There's not a lot of fire hydrants in this part of Douglas County just because these subdivisions were built so long ago. And that general lack of infrastructure is something that's been a concern for the surrounding community. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, being served by central water is going to provide a sustainable and reliable water source. And our application included a wildfire mitigation plan. As you can see on this slide, we're going to be providing fire hydrants throughout the community. South Metro Fire and Rescue has reviewed and approved our plans. And then we're also going to be building a fire vehicle turnaround with a hydrant along our southern street. That's something that's not necessary to serve our development, but it will serve fire life safety for the surrounding community. So we've really worked with the surrounding neighborhood to ensure that our proposed development considers their concerns. And that all came about through extensive outreach efforts on our part. We've held 5 neighborhood meetings to date. Our most recent neighborhood meeting was just 3 weeks ago. We had a good dialogue with the community. We posted a summary of the question and answers from that meeting to our project website, www.liveramblewood.com. That's a website we maintain as a sort of a community resource for our neighbors. We've sent project updates directly to those neighbors who've provided their contact information, and we've sent individual information letters to all of them and had a lot of conversations with them over the past 17 months. And really, from the very beginning, we've been transparent about how we intend to develop the site. So on the left portion of this slide is a concept plan that we shared with the neighborhood back at a neighborhood meeting we held in July of last year. So at that time, we were still processing the zoning application. We hadn't come before you all as part of that review. We hadn't submitted a preliminary plan to the county, but we wanted our neighbors to get a picture of what our intent was for developing the site based on that zoning that we were processing at the time. So fast forward to today, on the right-hand side of the screen is our preliminary plan, which we shared with the neighbors at our last neighborhood meeting. And as you can see, there's just a few minor tweaks, but our preliminary plan is nearly identical to the concept that we shared with our neighbors during the zoning process. And that site layout has been well received by the neighborhood to the point we received 11 letters of support for our zoning application. We've also received letters of support for our preliminary plan application. I believe those are in your packets. And that dialogue with the surrounding community, it's just been an important part of our development process. And as our project progresses into final plat and beyond, we're going to continue to listen to our neighbors and work with them to address their concerns as best we can. Some of the other benefits of our project, our PD includes a commitment to financially contribute to the county's project of paving Alpine Drive. We're going to be providing a street connection to Hilltop Road, which will offer Hidden Village a new means in and out of their community. We're going to be providing a park centrally located in our community that is open to the public. And then finally, land development is going to drive job creation from everything from developing these plans, processing the entitlements, construction, and eventual home sales. It's going to be a benefit to the local economy. We wanted to talk quite a bit about how our plan is consistent with the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan based on some of what we heard at Planning Commission. So our site is located in the northeast sub-area within the non-urban area of the county's 2040 plan. And we want to walk through how our plan is consistent with the policies of the master plan. So the first way is through our proposed clustered lot layout and preservation of open space. There's a number of master plan policies that speak to this. Policy 31E1 notes the importance of identifying and setting aside open space. And as I mentioned, our plan proposes 60 acres of open space across the site, more than 4 times the amount required by the PD. And we achieve this through our layout of clustered residential lots, which allows us to conserve and showcase important natural features along the edges of our site and reinforces that rural character of the non-urban area, which is consistent with Objective 2B and Policy 32B1. Our approach of clustering the lots and preserving the open space, it's similar to the layout of other recently approved subdivisions within the northeast sub-area. So this is the trails at Smoky Hills and Piney Lake Trails. Those are 2 examples. Both of these subdivisions were approved within the past 2 years and are currently under construction. And as you can see with the aerial photographs, the lots of these subdivisions, they're clustered to preserve open space across the site, just as Master Plan Policy 32B1 encourages. So our proposed plan layout is similar to other recent subdivisions in following this guidance of the master plan. Our plan proposes a density of 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres, which matches the density that Policy 33E1 states is supported in the northeast sub-area. Our site's a logical infill site, and the land uses we're proposing, single-family residential, agricultural uses, those are consistent with the land uses of the properties adjacent to our site. And approximately 79% of our property boundary is adjacent to lands with approved gross densities consistent with our proposed preliminary plan. The master plan notes that there must be infrastructure and services in place to support the proposed development. Our plan complies with Policy 33E2, again by proposing a density of 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres. And there is adequate public infrastructure to support the proposed development, as our application includes will-serve letters from Douglas County School District, South Metro Fire and Rescue, Parker Water and Sanitation District, and our approved traffic impact study. Policy 33E3 states encourage connections to central water and sewer district systems when possible. We're going to be connecting to central water and sewer via an inclusion into the Parker Water and Sanitation District. Policy 33E4 states that new development within the northeast subarea should take measures to protect the existing alluvial wells used as water supply in this area. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, none of the water that will serve our development will come from the upper Dawson Aquifer, which serves our neighbors. The master plan also highlights the importance of using setbacks, buffers, and preservation of vegetation to minimize impact to the land and to maintain rural character. So our clustered lot layout and proposed open space minimizes the removal of vegetation and allow existing trees and landforms to screen development in accordance with policy 33E5. Our plan allows for natural drainages to remain and provides open space corridors between our development and the surrounding neighborhood in accordance with policy 33E6. And then policy 33E7 states that developing along existing roads in the northeast subarea should be carefully sited and designed to minimize visual impacts. And we achieve this as none of our proposed lots are within 220 feet of Hilltop Road. And just to kind of build on that, we want to give you a look at what that setback would look like to really demonstrate how we meet policy 33E7. So this is a view of our site from Maryvale Trail as it currently exists. This is where we're proposing an entrance into our community off of Hilltop Road. And here is a conceptual rendering of what it will look like based on our preliminary plan. And we feel this rendering really gives a sense of the community that we're proposing and shows how homes set back from Hilltop allow the neighborhood to fit into the surrounding context and reflect that existing rural character along the road as directed by Master Plan Policy 33E7. I've already mentioned our setback is more than double the zoning requirement, but it's also important to note that it is greater than the setbacks of many of the existing neighborhoods along Hilltop Road, including the Tallman Gulch neighborhood located across the street from our site. And we've also taken care to intentionally orient our lots so that they face Hilltop Road. That's something we felt was important to the character of the neighborhood, to have our homes face the road as opposed to backing to the surrounding community. And the other thing to point out with this rendering is that you can only see a handful of the 68 proposed homes that would be built, and that has to do with the topography of the site. Most of our proposed lots are below a high point on the site, and so they simply just wouldn't be visible from Hilltop Road. And so these three things, our decision to go above and beyond the setback requirement, orienting our lots to face Hilltop, and the fact that most of our homes won't be visible from Hilltop because of the topography, they not only allow our project to meet policy 33E7, but we also think it creates a really nice front door to our community. So to summarize, we believe our application demonstrates conformance with the county's comprehensive master plan, including meeting all 7 of the policies listed under the northeast sub-area. And with that, I'm going to hand things back to Dan.
So regarding our timeline, Dan Sheldon, Miller United Real Estate. Our timeline, we got zoned last summer. We are in that preliminary plan process right now. With your approval today, we would be moving into our final plat. We expect to be moving through that process relatively quickly with staff, which would then put us into breaking ground potentially this fall, and having our first home occupied in the winter of next year. The final house being occupied in the spring of 2029. And I think we were just going to leave that criteria up on the screen. Is that right? Yeah. That concludes our presentation. We're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, sir. Questions from the board for the applicant?
You know, I have a couple, but I'll reserve my questions following citizen comment.
Me too, thank you.
All right, I have no questions at this time. Let's go to citizen comment. I have Scott Stoddard.
Good afternoon. Scott Stoddard, a resident of Douglas County. I've lived in Douglas County since about 2002. So I've seen a lot of growth happen over the years. I am here in support of the Ramblewood project. I really appreciate the thought that has gone into this development. Many of the reasons that were just presented, maintaining the character of the land, preserving views, natural appearance, also designing the open space, buffers, the lot locations, maintaining those setbacks, and in many cases, going beyond the requirements. I'm a huge natural rock formation guy, so I really love to see those being saved as much as possible. Wildlife, and then I thought it was really to see that they're providing more than 4 times the required open space, I think is really says a lot. And then I think some of the other items that really make it beneficial for the entire community are the central water and sewer systems that, it's going to put less strain on the current resources with the well and septic. And then the wildfire mitigation coming from having fire hydrants in the area that can be accessed for the entire neighborhood or the entire community, not just this neighborhood. And then obviously I think the benefit of contributing to the paving project within the community is a plus as well. So I think with all that in mind, it was a great presentation. I think this seems to be the best fit for this piece of land here in Douglas County. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. That's all I had signed up for to give public comment on this matter. Therefore, back to the applicant. Folks, that's all I had signed up. I mean, I'll poll the board to see if we want to hear public comment for those who didn't sign up. Board, do we wish to have further public comment despite the one person who did speak is the one who signed up in advance?
Hey, how much citizen comment do we have? If you could raise your hand if you're here for citizen comment on this item.
3.
1, 2, is that 4?
3,
So
4.
it looks like 4 folks total. Kevin?
I'm inclined to hear from our citizens who join us today.
Yeah, I am as well. I feel like, this is a tough time to meet, and if citizens have taken the time to get over here and show up, I think it's fair to have them present if they're here.
Yeah, just if you guys could sign up before you leave today.
Well, there won't be any need for that. There'll be, we'll ask everyone to give your name and give your where you're from. Anybody who isn't willing to do that, I got to tell you, I might stop you, okay? So if you're willing to give your name and tell us where you're from, please form a line from the public podium, and I will acknowledge speakers as they are queued up.
Well, and as folks are approaching, Chair, I'll just add the comment that, the nature of this county has changed over the last several decades. And what I'm really pleased to share, and I think that objective observers would agree, is that you have offered up 12 opportunities today for public comment, 12, if I'm counting correctly, between this and the business meeting. So we continue to welcome public comment and are grateful for our citizens for providing that. We're now a county of about 100,000 more than we were a decade ago, and our budget's close to $1 billion. About a decade ago, we were maybe 250 million. So we've changed a little bit, but I just applaud this board and the county for continuing to welcome public input while also balancing the needs to keep this a business environment.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, sir, if you'll please approach the podium, please give us your name, tell us where you're from.
Theodore Whitman. I'm a resident of Hidden Village. I've lived there for 34 years now, and I am the second lot from Hilltop, and I am directly adjacent to where the new development will be. In fact, there are only just 2 lots that we will actually be looking directly at the new subdivision. And the Bramblewood, I certainly agree with the proposal that they have. I think it's very well thought out. I've been very fortunate to be able to walk in the Wilsey property for over 30 years. And I just wanted to mention that on going south from where I am, there's a lot of the topography has a lot of rodeos and ravines, and there are a tremendous amount of mature ponderosa pines on those lands. And to develop the whole group and to break it up into smaller lots, I'm sorry, into a 3 acre lots, would be a terrible waste, because you'd have to do leach fields, you'd have to put in roads, and you'd have to level that entire area, and you'd be destroying hundreds of ponderosa pine trees. I think it would be an absolute awful thing to do. That's one of the main reasons why I'm for it. And also the idea of Hidden Village has absolutely no fire plugs. And for the first time, the fire department will be able to go up the road and be able to fill up and cause, to be able to put out any, help to put out fires instead of having to go all the way on Hilltop and over to Tolman to be able to load up their water and so on. So anyway, as I said, I think they have tried very hard to give everyone in Hidden Village as much input as possible, and I think that they've done a great job on this. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Gentleman in the white, please approach. Please give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Thank you. Scott Goldhammer. I appreciate your allowing me to come in. I understood the agenda was quite full today, so I didn't anticipate getting in this early, so thank you guys for making time for us. I've been a Douglas County resident for 30-plus years and have been following this Ramblewood project for through the zoning approval process and now the preliminary planning process the past couple of years. The existing land's truly an amazing piece of real estate with a remarkable topography, scenic views, offers an incredible opportunity to create a really wonderful neighborhood-like environment. I'm here in support of the application for many of the reasons that Scott had mentioned previously. I won't touch on all of them, but I think it's worth mentioning that providing central water and sewer systems will really help preserve the existing aquifers that are there. 60 acres of open space that's there, 300 to 450 foot buffers between the existing landowners. Today, most importantly, in the challenges that we have today in our environment, wildfire mitigation and the resource that would provide the neighborhood. And finally, it does meet the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan's criteria for clustering homes. As a long-term resident, taxpayer, homeowner of Douglas County, I support this project and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Gentleman in the green, please come forward. Please give us your name. Tell us where you're from.
Hi, my name is James Whittlesey. I'm from Centennial. I'm going to be joined here by my parents. Speaking on behalf of my parents, Joan and Brad, who are the longtime property owners of the 160-acre portion of land in the future Ramblewood site. I'm a local civil engineer with more than 20 years of experience on many types of development projects. This career has given me a lot of valuable experience and great background to support my parents and help making decisions regarding the long-term future of the property. As you may know, my family's owned and enjoyed this beautiful property since the 1950s. For many decades, we've been discussing what the ultimate future holds for the site. We've been approached by many potential buyers over the years, and we've been extremely cautious to make sure the ultimate development of the site is compatible with our values, the neighborhood, and what we'd like to see this property become. It was essential to us that any development of the site be done the right way. When Dan Sheldon and Miller United approached us, they presented us a thoughtful and balanced proposal for the development that included a number of considerations that we believe to be important to us and the neighbors. The proposed development included large setbacks, clusters, lots, which insulated the existing neighbors from the new development and maintained the rural character of the site. Ramblewood site access was to be off Hilltop Road, which minimizes traffic in Hidden Village. Most importantly, all proposed lots, including our 2 retained lots, will be served by public infrastructure for water and sewer. We've spoken with the Hidden Village neighbors and understand their valid concerns regarding the possibility of numerous new water wells and the impact that would have on the water table. This is one of the chief advantages of the cluster development. Additionally, Dan's proposal allows us to retain 2 ranch lots totaling approximately 80 acres, so we can continue to utilize the rural property as we have for many years. We have heard from many of the neighbors that they're glad to hear the rural element of the property will remain, as approximately 80% of the overall land will continue to be open space or ranch lots. Finally, speaking as a civil engineer who's seen a wide variety of developments, I can tell you this project is a success for all the parties. It blends minimally impactful development into rural community while maintaining the very things most important to the immediate neighbors, open space and water rights. We were delighted to have 100% positive feedback at the zoning hearings from Hidden Village neighbors who spoke in support of the project. Our family looks forward to a bright future in Douglas County, which includes the Ramblewood project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very much appreciate it. Before we continue with public comment, County Manager, I wonder if you could please take a note. Can we have a work session item in the future where planning comes forward to discuss the idea of owners of property, much like the folks we just heard from, having them present as a part of the application? Because I got to tell you, without speaking to the content of what was just made, for me, it's very important to hear from current owners who are working with an applicant to capitalize on their property, develop the land if necessary. I don't think they should be needed to speak in public comment. Obviously, I'm one of 3, but if we could bring that forward as a board discussion to talk about revising our procedures so that future landowners can have an opportunity to speak as a part of the applicant team.
Well, and I agree with your comment, Chair. I think that makes a whole lot of sense, and maybe we can save some time as we normally do in Douglas County. It's the applicant's application, and so oftentimes the applicant will invite whatever subject matter experts are needed to advance their case when they're presenting. So I think we defer to the applicant when they choose to do that. They're certainly welcome to invite the landowners as part of their application narrative with us. I think we've seen that in the past. And I don't think we would discourage that in the future.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it gets conveyed to, obviously, the current applicant. You guys heard all that. You heard 2 of us. We're probably going to do it. But obviously, Commissioner, there could be future applicants. I think we need our staff to probably communicate that during the application process. And on the other hand, portion of staff of that department has heard it. But maybe, like I said, we are in public comment. I did want to take a quick point. Your comments are noted. I would hope my comments are noted. I did see Doug nod his head to bring that back to us.
Yeah, you can direct staff to do that right now if you want.
Well, we are in public comment, so I just wanted to make sure that it was noted. Continue with public comment. Sir, in the blue shirt, I think I had you. If you could please approach and tell us where you're from and give us your comments, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Gus Burkhardt. My wife Camille and I have lived in Hidden Village since the last century. And we are here today to give you input from property owners such as us who are immediately adjacent to the Ramblewood development. We wish to express our full and total support for the preliminary plan for that development as outlined by Dan Shelton and his team. Dan Shelton has, from the very start, consistently kept our Hidden Village community informed and apprised of all his development plans. We and our neighbors prefer and support the division of the Whittlesey Ranch as outlined in his proposal. Far fewer roads, less disturbance of the flora and fauna, decidedly less impact on the immediately adjacent property owners like us, Parker water instead of 70 new straws into the Dawson, plus nearby a new fire hydrant placed in a large turnaround area to serve our community in case of wildfires. The Hidden Village owners are the ones directly impacted by this development, not folks who are miles away and almost in the next county. We're grateful to you for voting to approve the Ramblewood preliminary plan as submitted by Dan Sheldon and his team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As someone who has also resided here since the last century, we appreciate your comments. And is there anyone else who would like to give public comment on this matter? And seeing none. Back to the applicant for the opportunity for the last word. And in response, of course, to any public comments you'd like to make.
I'm appreciative of all the folks who have come out. Dan Sheldon, Miller United, thank you to those who have come out and spoken today. And I have no additional comment. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Questions, any additional questions from the board for the applicant?
Well, I don't have any questions, but Dan, it's good to see you and your team. And, you know, I think as I did with Shay earlier, I just want to compliment you. I think we've spent a lot of time together over the years, and it's great to see you continue to do better and better each year, each time that we see you. What's really nice is to hear from citizens in support. You did the things that you didn't have to do, and I think that was shared. You know, the work that you're providing around fire mitigation is obviously very near and dear to our hearts. You don't have to do that. Doing that is significant to me. It's significant to us. Having that public outreach, getting to a place where you are here, you're before a planning commission, and you have letters of support and not torches and pitchforks. We deal with both. We can handle both all day, every day, but it's nice when you show up and you have a lot of support. So good job.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant from the board?
I did have questions, but they were actually resolved in the public testimony and the presentation. So thank you for the thoughtful presentation. It was also fantastic, just I guess, ditto Commissioner Layden, hearing from Mr. Grimes and Mr. Whitman, who live so close to this future development, and hearing their thoughts was particularly important to me. So thank you.
Yeah, comprehensive presentation. It really solved all my questions. So I have no questions, and you may take your seat, and we will bring it back to the board for action on this preliminary plan application before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if you are going to call me back up to ask if I approve of the 6 conditions, I do.
So I really appreciate you doing that, because that's usually my job to track. So thank you very much. Again, bring it back to the board for action on this preliminary plan.
Man, he has gotten good. It's you.
Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to make a motion, and I move to approve Ramblewood preliminary plan because it does meet all the approval criteria with 6 conditions as presented, and this is project file SB 2025-040.
And I'll second that motion.
Very good. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yeah, I like the plan. I like how you guys have done it. The preservation of the agricultural land, you know, the clustering to meet the goals of the comprehensive master plan. All the while, I know, you know, you're not doing it for free. We've heard from the owners. I am sure the owners would very much like to see this land developed in a responsible way if they've contracted with you guys. So I like it. I liked it when we were here for zoning. I like the plan. Any further discussion?
You know, I just would redouble on Commissioner Van Winkle's comment from earlier that, you know, the emphasis on parks too, parks and recreation. You didn't have to do that. That's going to be a great amenity for those residents.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? Gentlemen, motion and second is before us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the preliminary plan is adopted. Congratulations all. All right, our next item is Driscoll Subdivision Minor Development Final Plan. Project file is SB 2025-042. And remember, folks, we've got another item up. If you could please exit if you were exiting quietly.
Mr. Chair, may I ask for a brief recess for the board? I know we've been going at it for a little bit.
No problem. Is that okay by Commissioner Van Winkle? Please. Okay. Hey, folks, we're going to recess before we get on to the Driscoll subdivision. 10 minutes, please. There you go. All right, folks, let's come back to order, please. Next item on the agenda is the Driscoll Subdivision Minor Development Final Plat. Project file is SB 2025-042. Trevor Bedford, presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Trevor Bedford, representing Planning Community Development. The request is the Driscoll Subdivision Minor Development Final Plat. Project number is SB 2025-042. William and Maria Driscoll are the property owners. The applicant is requesting approval of a minor development final plat to subdivide a 30.16 acre parcel into 2 residential lots. This slide shows the intent of the minor development process to create 10 or fewer single-family lots. Following a review period by referral agencies and the public hearings are held before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. Referral comments were standard in nature, and no public comment was received. The minor development plat process is set forth in section 604.08 of the subdivision resolution and is shown on this slide. The Planning Commission heard the project at the March 2nd, 2026 public hearing and recommended approval with a vote of 7-0. No members of the public spoke at the hearing, and the commission had no specific comments or questions. The project is located in the northeast portion of the county in the Parker area, within the northeast sub-area as identified by the Douglas County Comprehensive Master Plan map. This map shows the zoning in the area. The property abuts agricultural 1 properties to the east, north, and west. The parcels to the north and west are residential and agricultural, with parcel sizes ranging from 10 to 20 acres. Directly to the east is a utility tract. The property abuts a state residential to the south, with lot sizes of approximately 3 acres adjacent to the site. This aerial map provides some additional context. The property is a meets and bounds lot that was rezoned from agricultural 1 to large rural residential in 2025. There is an existing single-family residence on proposed lot 1. It is proposed to remain and will meet setback requirements if this minor development is approved. This exhibit shows the proposed 2-lot subdivision layout with access for each lot off of Sand Creek Road. There is sufficient room to construct a home on lot 2 outside of the drainage area. A general purpose 20-foot utility easement is proposed along the property frontage, which the county will accept via the plat. This is a view of the site from Sand Creek Road facing northeast. And this is a view of the site from Sand Creek Road facing northwest, generally showing lot 2. This slide lists the approval standards for a minor development final plat. Staff's assessment of these standards are discussed in detail in the staff report. Staff has evaluated the minor development final plat in accordance with Article 6 of the Douglas County Subdivision Resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the minor development final plat are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $500 to Douglas County School District for cash and lieu fees. Condition 2, prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $250 to Douglas County for parks cash and lieu fees. Condition 3, prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, the applicant shall record a declaration of restrictive covenants for water as required by the Water Supply Overlay District. Condition 4, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County in the event of such a discovery. Condition number 5, prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, technical corrections to the plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And finally, condition number 6, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or applicant's representative during the public hearing and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. This concludes my presentation. I am available to take questions on the staff report if the board wishes. Otherwise, the applicant does not have a formal presentation but is here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Trevor. Any questions for staff from the board?
I have no questions.
No questions from me.
I have no questions either. Would the board be interested in hearing any, or have, excuse me, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I read the packet. I have no questions for the applicant.
Same, is very thorough, thank you.
Yeah, it looks pretty simple to me. I have no questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
But please, if you have anything you'd like to say, please do so.
No, not really. I just, I appreciate your time.
Are there conditions present here? Yes.
And you do have 6 conditions that were illustrated in the staff presentation.
Correct.
Do you agree to those conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you, sir. I guess we don't have any questions for you. You need to bring us a tough one next time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I received no any signups for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this matter at this time? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for any action. Board, how would we like to dispose of this minor development plat, final plat?
Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I'll make a motion to approve the Driscoll subdivision minor development final plat because based on what we've heard in the application and the materials, it does meet all of the approval criteria with 6 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2025-042.
I'll second the motion, just thanks to the applicant for their thoughtful work throughout this process.
Yeah, this seems, again, I hold it as a principle that when you own property here in the county, you should have the right to capitalize on that property. Again, based on the intent, I think I don't see a reason why we'd say no. And, thank God we live in a county still here in Colorado where a landowner can still do this sort of thing. With that said, there is a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And the final plat is approved. Congratulations, sir. All right, next item, our last item in our public hearing today is second and final reading of ordinance establishing business licensure requirements to regulate massage facilities and to regulate and prohibit unlawful activities for the sole purpose of deterring illicit massage business and preventing human trafficking within Douglas County, Colorado. Valerie Brewster, Assistant County Attorney presenting. Thank you, Jeff. Unless it's Jeff Garcia, actual county attorney presenting.
Valerie Brewster's busy getting ready for a trial, so you get the B team today, but I'm happy to give you a little bit of a presentation about the second reading of the massage licensing ordinance. So a little bit of background and history, and something I'm actually very proud of with our county is that we very much have led the way in reducing human trafficking and preventing that crime from occurring in Colorado as well as our county. The original bill that we're relating our ordinance to relates back to House Bill 22-1300, which is law enforcement to prevent human trafficking, which created Colorado Revised Statute 3015-401.4. The ordinance that was adopted by the county was first adopted in 2023 and is now being modified again to address county bill. Was then to address changes in that CRS 3015-401.4. These changes were necessary to obtain FBI approval for federal background checks, something that this board found necessary. Prior to these changes and the approval by the FBI, we were able to get CBI background checks, but not FBI background checks, which is very critical in this situation because although there may be a clean CBI background check, criminals who do human trafficking tend to traffic. They tend to move around, so they may have been found to have violated these laws in another state, and we would not have been able to access that federal background check. The first reading on this was on April 10th, 2026. We allowed ample time for community input. I will tell you this is not one of our more interesting edits. It was really an amendment to get that FBI background check. We added some definitions, we clarified the application process, applicable parties, corrected some dates, and made sure that there was a unified state process for this licensing. There were no comments received up until this point. No edits were made since the first reading. It is my understanding, having spoken with other counties, we will become the first county with a compliant county ordinance in this matter. So we will be the first to be able to obtain those FBI checks. To be fair to all other counties, we are ahead of schedule on this. The other counties don't need to get this done until July of this year. So we are a little bit ahead of the curve. Other counties have contacted us. Other county attorneys have contacted my office. We've already had a few meetings through CCI to provide the best practices that we've put in place, and we have shared our policies and procedures about this so that the policies that were already adopted in relation to the 2022 ordinance have already been shared with other counties. The next steps on this is that you will hear from myself or Valerie Brewster again on this. We have an IGA to do the background checks and licensing for Castle Rock. We will adopt amended county procedures, and the state statute that this relates to will take effect of July of this year. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Counselor. Questions from the board for the county attorney?
You know, Mr. Chair, I know it's later in the day and we've had a pretty long afternoon of meetings, but, you know, I would just echo Commissioner Van Winkle's earlier comment that there is a special moment, I think, for elected officials, for commissioners to, you know, see something come full circle. And, you know, I really want to thank both my commissioner colleagues and our county manager, our staff, the amazing members of law enforcement. You know, and Jeff, you were really part of the ground floor of us running House Bill 1371 back in 2024, getting that cleanup so that we could get both the federal background checks and the Colorado background checks. Commissioner Teal, I mean, we were in DC having those conversations and really actively working with the FBI and others to figure out how we could effectuate this outcome. So now to be on the other side doing what all the other counties have to do and passing a massage licensing ordinance consistent with that bill, and then to also be the first. I see Caroline in the background. We got to capture that superlative, Caroline. First in the state to do it. So I'm really pleased and very thankful to be here. Another bad question, Chair.
Any other questions from the board?
No questions, but my kudos to you two for the hard work that's been put in here. When I, at the state level, didn't fully understand it, being on board now for about 15, 16 months, seeing the work that's done here and the leadership really from Douglas County to the state, this is a prime example of it. This is something close to, I know, Commissioner Lade, in your heart, and Commissioner Teal, you've been on board 100% with fighting human trafficking and being tough on crime. This is one area where the state, again, almost like the DNA testing that fell behind, Douglas County didn't just find it acceptable to be within the state of Colorado and follow their lead and be under that just umbrella, and decided to take a leadership role. And what we have here before us today is the fruit of a tremendous lawn work of labor from you two that led its way to the entire state of Colorado, passed a bill, and now here we are passing it for the citizens of Douglas County to prevent human trafficking. Really finding what is something that can be done to prevent human trafficking, what's something that can be done to protect especially young women and young ladies from the dangers of human trafficking and abuse. And Douglas County found a solution. It's not the total solution, but it's a big step in the process. And now, just one of 64 counties, but it's a statewide law, and I think a lot of other counties are going to quickly follow suit and join Douglas County's leadership to pick up an ordinance similar to this one. So again, Douglas County leading the way, and will have impact on all 64 counties of Colorado, and hopefully even beyond, because I think the concept has a lot of validity. We heard a testimony. Commissioner Layden, unfortunately, you weren't here during first reading, and we almost held the process up for you, but knowing that second reading would be here, I said at the time, I'll say my comments today and not on second, so I don't need to belabor it now, but at that hearing, we did have a wide range of known leaders in the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. We just had regular citizens. We had town and council leaders from across Douglas County all come together and say, great job during the public testimony phase, and very supportive at that time. So I wanted that on the record.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. And I just would echo those sentiments that it's really about the conversation, right? And I remember several years ago, I was shocked to hear some of the statistics, and I was really I have to give credit to Janelle Goodrich from Silence to Saved, who really does that work on the ground every single day, and her colleagues that educated us. But, part of it is making sure that all of our friends and colleagues that are city council members, elected leaders, decision makers, members of the community, parents know what's happening out there. This year is probably the first time ever we've seen this level of activity and conversation. More people are aware of what's going on. Colorado is 10th in the nation for human trafficking. That's unacceptable. We're running a bill again this year, and it's a lot broader and it's a lot bigger than this. And these guys have heard me talk about it a million times, so I won't mention it again. But I will say there's a very special person that's in our gallery right now, a friend and colleague named Andrea Bradbury, who I think about the work that is done directly with victims, and this is about protecting victims and her amazing advocacy with those who have faced the most horrific scenarios with heart and compassion is really to be commended. So it's nice to see out there. Chair.
You guys ask the worst questions.
We really do.
I have no questions for the county attorney. If it pleases the board, let's have Andrea up because she did sign up for public comment. And so let's open the floor for public comment. And Andrea, please come on forward. You are not a stranger to the board, but please do give your name and where you're from for the record.
Hi, my name is Andrea Bradbury. I am a 30-year resident of Douglas County, specifically Highlands Ranch. About 35 years in some type of victim services. And it really takes something monumental that I would sit here for 3 hours to be able to give you guys kudos. Thank you so much for jumping on board with this because it's a huge problem. I've had my heart broken in the Capitol so many times over the last 15 years when we have a trafficking bill come up. And I leave not understanding why. Why is it okay that this is happening? Why is it okay that these horrific crimes are happening and we are not doing anything about it? My heart is full to know that the county that I live in and have been with for so long cares enough to make these ordinances to follow a path that will hopefully put us on the board and say we are not going to tolerate this kind of behavior in Douglas County. Polaris Project did a study that showed that IMBs, illicit massage businesses, there are 9,000 approximately in the country. And comparatively speaking, there's about 8,200 Starbucks. So when you think about somebody who says, oh, we have a Starbucks on every corner, what does that mean for that illicit massage business or for those massage parlors? And I just think it's really, really important that we're setting precedents here and saying that that is not going to be acceptable. So thank you, Chair Teal, Vice Chair Winkle, and Commissioner Layden. We've had many conversations about trafficking over the years, and I am so grateful for your victim-centered heart and thoughts over the years. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Andrea. We very much appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to give public comment on this ordinance? And seeing none, let's bring it back to the board for action on this second and final reading of this ordinance.
Well, thank you, colleagues. I see the motion, and I will graciously and humbly make the motion to approve the second and final reading of ordinance establishing business licensure requirements to regulate massage facilities and to regulate and prohibit unlawful activities for the sole purpose of deterring illicit massage business and preventing human trafficking within Douglas County, Colorado.
It's my honor to second the motion. Good work.
I pretty much didn't think you're going to make a motion to deny. So, Abe, thanks so much for bringing this before us. And yes, you really were the godfather of this legislation to go through. You're the one who brought it to the board to get behind it. You did a lot of, you wore out a lot of shoes to get it done, and then of course to get this coming before us as an ordinance. I'm sure we'd get around to it eventually, but we didn't have to get around to it eventually because of all of your efforts. And hey, we didn't wait to do great when earlier in the month when we passed through the first reading. I told Kevin I didn't think you'd mind.
Not at all.
As long as you were here for the second one. And so I am very pleased that it sounds to me like we're going to be passing this here in a second. Any further discussion? There is a motion and a second.
Well, Mr. Chair, briefly, I'll just say I refuse to take credit, and I appreciate that, but the very real reality for a commissioner on any board, but particularly here, is I have zero power. I really have none unless I have the support of at least one other commissioner. And what has been such a tremendous blessing to me that I am very humbled by is that these efforts around human trafficking have not only been supported by one other commissioner, but by both. This is something you both should absolutely feel very proud of because it would not have happened without you. So thanks.
Well, occasionally you get a chance to do the decent thing. Any further discussion? All right, there's a motion and a second for the second reading and final reading of this ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it is adopted. All right, well, that concludes our land use and public hearing for today. Our next land use and public hearing will be held on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 2:30 p.m. We are adjourned.